This issue is very complex. We only have a few minutes here. But in a nutshell, we have enough evidence way beyond what they had for Monica Gate to open up a serious inquiry into a subject which has been the butt of many jokes and ridicule for over 50 years. Many of the military witnesses that have come forward in the Disclosure Project are people who said they never wanted to come forward because of the fear of ridicule from the media and from the powers that be, aside from the fact that some of them have been threatened with being erased. We have the smoking guns. We have the documents. We have the first-hand corroborating testimony. There is physical evidence. It's all there. The problem is, and I had this conversation with a number of people in the Congress, the reason this thing is still secret isn't because it's silly. It's because it's so profound. The implications of the fact that, number one, that these UFOs are real, which anyone with an IQ over mud can figure out. But number two, that in fact, we not only have been in possession of materiel associated with these craft, but have figured out how they operate. If you go all the way back to the 1950s, early 50s, and look at the Walter, the memo from Canada, I don't know if you remember this, it's in the book, and it clearly states in this top secret memo that I understand got inadvertently declassified by the Canadian government, we have, at that time, in 1950, 51, 52, before we detonated the first hydrogen bomb, a project that was studying the, quote, modus operandi, the means of operating these so-called UFOs. And the project was so classified, Dr. Vannevar Bush and a team of his people were working on it, that it was restricted more than the development of the hydrogen bomb. And I'm quoting, paraphrasing from this document. This is an official document, undisputed. It's not one that has any question about its authenticity. Think about what that means. What it means is that since Eisenhower, there has not been an intact chain of command over this subject. And let me tell you how dangerous that is. You've got a kleptocracy. This is my ungenerous term for the folks controlling the secrecy on this issue. You have a kleptocracy that has arrogated to itself the right to not only know this information, but to withhold the technologies from the public, which, if they could be put into application for peaceful uses, would enable us to say adios to Saudi Arabian oil. Again, a new era in environmental sustainability, and would eliminate poverty within our lifetime, within 20 years. Totally eliminate poverty. I have used the term recently in a position paper. It's up on our website, disclosureproject.org, where I used the term planeticide, that things have gotten so bad that we're at the point now where, with malice aforethought and utter greed and stupidity, information and technologies are being withheld from the public that are necessitating our cannibalization of Gaia, of Mother Earth. And this cannot continue. This has to end. Back in 1993, after I had started an organization called the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, we had successfully sent rapid response teams to Belgium, to Mexico, throughout the United States and other places, where we had made contact with these objects at fairly close range. The results of that were that the head of Army Intelligence and a few other spooks called me in and said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "Well, don't you think it's time that the people take this matter into their own hands since you've messed it up so badly?" He looked at me. He says, "Who the hell are you?" I said, "Well," he says, "you have no right to be doing this." I said, "Of course I do. I'm a denizen of Earth." But the fact is, we do have a right to know this information, and we have a need to. And when I've been asked by, all kinds of powerful people, why is this really being kept secret? I said, well, there's a whole constellation of issues, but it really has to do about power and how the world runs. It's power. Now, people think it's money. Money, look, I need money because I have 4 daughters and I got to put them through college and this sort of thing. That's money. Power is something else. All right, when you start talking about a multi-trillion-dollar segment of the world's economy that is a centralized oil and electric grid and fossil fuels, And that is the engine that runs the entire economy. And this information about these things you see pictures of flying around the sky, if the information that we know is extant is released to the public, it will very quickly find its way into technological applications, which will also mean goodbye ExxonMobil, goodbye public utilities. We won't need them. My point is, you're dealing with something that would totally change the way the world runs. Back in 1993, I was invited by Lawrence Rockefeller to come out to his ranch with some spooks and some other folks, my intelligence friends, I'd say that lovingly. And, you know, I'm a country doctor in North Carolina at the time, rattling around in an ER, taking care of gunshots and shootings and heart attacks and all the fun stuff. And I get involved in this stuff, partially out of the fact that my uncle designed the lunar module, the thing that landed on the moon, took Neil Armstrong there. He was a senior project engineer at Grumman who designed that. And I thought, well, you know, here we go. So I'm going to go out here and I'll meet with these guys and see, you know, what's going on. And one night, Lawrence takes me out. He says, well, Dr. Greer, you know that no aspect of life on Earth will be unaltered once this comes out. So profound are the implications. I said, I know, Lawrence. That's why it's so damn secret. And also so illegally secret. It couldn't be legal with the president and the Congress and the right people knowing about it and keep it secret. It has to be an unacknowledged special access project. Memorize it, USAP. That's what they're really called, if you ever hear it. And they are unacknowledged. They're not acknowledged to anyone unless you're in the project. And I told Mr. Rockefeller, I said, yeah, but you know what? This has been going on for decades. And now the world is beginning to stew in its own juices environmentally. And we're going to, the chickens, and this is 93, long before 2001 and the 9/11 event. And I said the chickens will come home to roost if we maintain this status quo where the zero-sum game of fossil fuels necessitates the impoverishment of at least 80% of the world's population. You think I'm kidding? CNN today reported China being industrialized, moving into the oil and commodities markets. If you think gas is expensive now, wait 5 or 10 years. You'll be lucky if you can buy it for $10 a gallon. It is a serious problem, and the only way to maintain the zero-sum game that we have of energy supplies is to keep this subject secret, make you people think that this is all hooey and nonsense, because the shills that are in the media who are on the payroll, like this, believe me, I know who they are, of these secret operations, will make this sound like so much nonsense when in reality they know it's true. In 2001, as you know, prior to the 9/11 event, we had a large press conference in Washington. That's available for free. Anyone who wants to see it, download it, take it, put it on your cable access station. We had 20 or 22 military and intelligence witnesses there, National Press Club ballroom, packed with every network in the world. By the way, it was viewed live by around 500,000 people. It was the largest webcast in the history of the Internet. Not the history of the National Press Club, of the Internet. That's how much interest there is, even though this subject doesn't matter, you see. But there's enormous interest. It ended up getting covered briefly by networks all over the world and then was taken down. The shills, the national security control levers were being pulled heavily. And a little tidbit, that first hour of that webcast, as you can see in its entirety, because thank God we recorded it as well as broadcast it, was jammed externally by NSA. This I have on direct sources. So that's why the people who tried to get on, hundreds of thousands of people, saw nothing for the first hour because it was jammed electronically. Anyway, this is the hottest subject there is. It is the crown jewel of the secret, shadowy government that Senator Inouye refers to in the Iran-Contra hearings when he says that, and when Eisenhower says, beware the military-industrial complex, he, a five-star general and conservative Republican two-term president. It's because they knew that there was a kleptocracy of corporate and financial interests that had infected or invaded like a cancer our body politic, our institutions, our media, to keep things secret that would upset the apple cart of who really runs the show. And you got a couple hundred interlocking big corporations and individuals involved with those who run the show. It is not the President of the United States, and it most certainly is not the Congress. And anyone who tells you otherwise is in a fairy tale. Doesn't happen. I've met with some of these people who are in this group. About 40 or 45% of them want us to succeed. They do.